Everybody wants the crime stories. The feds, the smuggling, the DEA, the life. That's the part that everyone wants to hear. That's the part that made me a legend of Riverside. But here's the part that nobody talks about. What finally broke me and ended it all was not the DEA bust. It was me on a cold, empty bed, laying there alone, thousands of miles away from the only person that I loved. I was sitting there just contemplating that if I kept up this lifestyle, that she was going to leave me for good. And the only thing that I would do from that point forward was just drink myself to death. But then, out of nowhere, the thought, I want to live. And there's a part of me, no, the entire whole of me that wants to live with hope. And from that moment forward, I decided it was finally time to get clean. This is how I went from a busted drug dealer to a hopeless drug addict to then finally becoming sober for 10 years. My name is Benny Jasco, and this is my story. Things were really fucking bad, you know what I mean? Like, I would drink so much and use so much that the hangovers would last for 3 fucking days. I mean, I would just lay there, just completely just knowing that my insides were rotting just inside out, puking out blood some nights. When I did make it to a doctor, the doctor telling me that my liver and my heart were scarred from so much coke and drinking, yeah, it got really fucking bad because what I was doing to basically get myself out of trouble was weighing on me so much that the only way to deal with it was to just drink myself and use every fucking drug imaginable just to get myself to that state of oblivion every night. But every morning you wake up, right? If you don't die of a drug overdose or if you don't drink yourself to death, you wake up the next morning and you got to deal with just the fact that all that stuff is still in your system, but not in a good way. And it's really fucking bad those next mornings.
Explain more of the being a drug dealer side of things too. How did that sort of lifestyle get you to this point of how you were living and being a drug addict as a result?
I mean, honestly, the whole reason I got into selling drugs was to get drugs to use. It went from the very first ounce of weed I bought to then bag it up and just keep a little bit of, for me on the side. And then that ounce became 2 ounces. Then it became a quarter pound. And then it became half a pound. Then it became a whole pound. Then it became 2 pounds. And it just kept escalating from there, but it was always just to get some stuff to use. And then I realized, like, oh my God, I can make a shit ton of money doing this as well. Same thing happened with Coke. It was just, let's pick up a couple grams, flip it to a friend of mine, and then it was just, then I had some on the side for myself. And then all of a sudden the gram became an 8 ball, and then the 8 ball became, an entire ounce. And then it just keeps escalating because as you're growing as someone who's selling drugs for a living, like your addictions are also growing with it, and it just gets pretty fucking bad at that point.
That makes sense. So you were arrested, raided, made an informant, lost the whole career, and still became a user after that. What actually made you stop?
I had my first drink when I was 14 and had my last drink when I was 2 months into being 40 years old. Did my first bit of drugs when I was around 15, stopped doing drugs the same time when I was 40, and what finally made me stop was a woman. Finally had a woman who is worth it to keep in my life. Had a ton of girlfriends prior to that, a ton of one night stands, a ton of girlfriends that lasted, for various time frames, right? A couple weeks, couple months, couple years, but never one who wanted to be like just a true partner, like somebody you could build a life with. Did it happen later in life? Sure, but it happened, and I'm no fucking fool. I saw someone that was absolutely worth spending my life with, and I realized that if I didn't stop drinking as heavily and getting fucked up on drugs every single night, that she was just gonna run away. Not walk away, not leave me, just run away. I mean, I finally stopped. I'll never forget the moment I was laying there, and I don't know what the voices in my head were. I'm not too religious, angels and devils and all that shit. I don't want to sound fucking stupid, but I woke up from, on the third day of this horrible hangover, and Hope was other side of the country. And I realized that is like, if I don't stop this, she's gonna be gone for real. And when she leaves me, the thought came into my head, like, I will kill myself with alcohol and drugs. And I was just like, horribly defeated feeling. It was like that was it. This is how I'm gonna go out. And then the other side, right? The other, the angel on my shoulder, whatever you want to call it, was just like, wait a second, you don't want to die. You want to live, and you want to live with hope. And it was just that brutal realization that if I didn't change, she was gonna leave, and that was the last thing that I wanted. So like, I called a guy from AA like that night, and got myself to a meeting that night.
Very specific, all of that. Yeah, that's literally exactly what I was going to ask you more details about. Actually, was what was different about that night, but you already answered that. As far as like, how the journey progressed from there. Typically, the first, 90 days and on, of course, but especially the beginning, even after you make that decision, people will often relapse, in the earlier days. And so, like, whenever someone hears about a success story or someone getting sober online, they don't get to experience the full depth of it, and it often just seems like a montage of like rock bottom to success. But what did those first like 3 months really feel like for you?
They were a fucking struggle. You don't have the buffer anymore. You have no choice but to just feel all of your feelings. And there's just no way to mask them. There's no way to run from them. Here they come. And it was all feelings, right? Even happiness. It felt like it was too much adrenaline, because anytime I was happy before, there was some chemicals running through my body as well. I'm man enough to admit that, like, everybody has cried before, but there would just be times in those 90 days where you just start crying for no reason, just thinking about something, thinking about your childhood, thinking about like an old friend, whatever it is, and all of a sudden you couldn't cut the feeling off or dull the feeling, so you had no choice but to just have it all come at once, and it's overwhelming. The day to day is, I was out of work as well. This drug dealing was long behind me at this point. I got busted when I was 29, and I got sober when I was 40. So there's 11 years of life in there of just hard drinking, and but the drug dealing lifestyle was well behind me. So it was regular jobs, regular life, but I was out of work at this point. So it was just doubling down on, the feelings of just helplessness and worthlessness and everything else. The only thing that kept me going was having that daily meeting to go to. That was the anchor, kept me grounded, and truly saved my life, 100%.
So you said that quitting wasn't always the hardest part in the past, or as far as like other things that you've had to sacrifice outside of just drugs, like what else did you have to give up? What was the hardest thing for you?
Even though I wasn't dealing drugs anymore, I was using them pretty much every day, and it's still at that point, it's that double life, that you're kind of leading. So you're on the outward to everybody, you're just a normal guy in a shirt and a tie. You're going to your job, you're doing what you're doing, and then at night you're in bars putting fancy shit up your nose and drinking until 2-3 in the morning, and then rinse and repeat. Everybody around me was also partying that way, and maybe that's a part of just being young. But then all of a sudden, you're not really too young anymore. Now you're in your mid-30s, and your body isn't exactly reacting to this stuff as well as it, or rebounding from it as well as it, used to when you're in your 20s. And it just wears on you. And I mean, man, talk about a cycle, get through the week and get to Friday, and I would drink and use Coke and whatever else was on the table till Sunday afternoon, get just enough food in me and just enough sleep to wake up for work on Monday. Monday was hell, because you're just sitting there, the worst hangover, and you realize you're back at your job and it's just fucking shit. And then you wake, Tuesday comes and it's like, all right, I gotta have just a couple drinks or a little bit of a party on a Tuesday. I had a couple friends that would say is like, the true drinkers go out on Tuesdays, not on Fridays. Like that if you want to know who the true boozers are, go to a bar on a Tuesday. But the drinks on Tuesday would get me through Wednesday and Thursday, just to sit there and repeat the whole process Friday to Sunday again. And that's how my life went for over a decade. And it's pretty fucking taxing. And honestly, being on the other side of it, where I wasn't dealing drugs and making a ton of money, where now I was just buying them to use them, that was pretty humbling as well, because now I felt like what it was on just being on the other side. Getting your bag was shorted, or someone would give you some bullshit that wasn't really strong or good product. Now it just, all sorts of bad shit when you're on the other side, when all you are is just an addict, a drug user. So yeah, Hope, my girlfriend at the time, who's now my wife, saved my life, 1,000%. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be sitting here talking to this camera, if it wasn't for her and our eventual marriage. That's why in the book I speak so highly of her, and that Act 3 part is so prominent, or such an important part to the story, because it's truly what saved my life.
Makes sense. So, concretely though, like, as a result of sobriety, obviously there's hope in the story, and maybe that's what the specifics are, but I don't know if you could go into that a little bit deeper on the flip side now, because we've gone kind of deep into the journey. But as a result of sobriety, like, what did that change give you? What feeling did that give you? What lifestyle did that give you that using never could?
Yeah, so the first 90 days, like we spoke about that, those are really tough. And the reason why AA doesn't even suggest it, right? They can't make anyone do it, but it's just like, hey, are you at rock bottom? Do you really want to put this stuff behind you? Like, 90 meetings in 90 days, because any bad habit can turn into a good habit and become your routine in 90 days. Now, there's a lot of struggling that happens during those 90 days. A weird phenomenon is drinking dreams, where you are so used to how that feels that you literally, in your dream, you're dreaming of drinking, and you wake up feeling like you actually drank. It's the weirdest fucking thing. So talk about like mind, body, and that whole connection. It's so powerful that your mind can convince your body that you had some drinks, and you wake up with the same guilt. You wake up with the same shit feeling in your stomach. So it takes a long time to kind of rewire your body and your mind. The thing that happened with me, that come April, because I started getting sober, it was in December, late December. So now April, not only did the sun's coming out, so it just makes you feel great, but I woke up one morning and all the anxiety and depression that I'd been feeling for the past 30 years was just lifted. It was gone. And it was just a crazy realization that, I thought the panic attacks and the anxiety and the depression that I was feeling as a teenager, as early as like 10, 11, 12 years old, I started using, drinking and using drugs at 14 I thought I was self-medicating. I realized that I was just prolonging this anxiety, this depression, because you're not dealing with it. You're not talking about it. You're not trying to get better. You're just masking it. And I did that for, almost 30 years. And then you wake up one morning and you're just totally free of that. And it's like, holy shit, I can live a normal life. And normal life is, it's nothing to be scared of. It's everything that you should be, striving for. I'll tell you what, having money at your disposal because you're not spending it and wasting it on drinking and drugs is a nice thing too, right? There's normal things that you can have in life, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going to bed just with a free mind, feeling good, and waking up at 8 in the morning and going about your day. There's way more to life than being out there getting fucked up and doing fucked up things to get high or to get drunk. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a lot more fulfillment you can find in a life that actually, has, ironically, the word means so much more, but a life of substance could go in so many directions with that. But yeah, exactly. And I think that's maybe the point of that word too, or the point of that saying more so, is like, there is substance to living in certain ways. And different people take different paths to get there, which I think is what's so interesting about yours. Um, so, I mean, obviously there's kind of like a full circle direction there, and there's clearly a positive end to this, which maybe some of the previous content maybe didn't reflect on as much. But I think we keep coming back to the same question, Benny. You're 10 years clean, debts are paid, things are different now. What are the reasons that you still choose to stay masked?
For my loved ones, my family, my friends. I'm more worried about them than anything that can happen to me. I just, they're aware of my past, but maybe not the extent of it. But I wouldn't forgive myself if, and it doesn't even, I'm not even saying like anything bad happening to them, like, violence or anything like that. I'm just talking about their reputations, just the life that they live. I wouldn't want anything happening to any of them, based on the stuff that I talk about in this book. Even though Buzz Junkie is a redemption story, there's a lot of gnarly shit that happens in it. So it's one of this. Yeah, my identity is gonna stay masked for a while here, until the time is right.
Makes sense. Sometimes best things take time.
100%.
So, okay, maybe there's someone else out there though who still really relates to this, regardless of whether your face is there or not. And they're on day one, they're at their first AA meeting. They're not even sure they want to stop, right? Like you were saying, like, are you really sure you can leave this behind? Asking themselves those questions, what would you say to them?
Gotta give it a shot. There's just a whole better life on the other side, and you'll never know if you don't get to that other side. And I don't care how fucked up your life got. I do not care how fucked up it feels, how hopeless and worthless and fucked up, how far down you have fallen. AA and sobriety can get you back to having a life worth living. Just got to give it a shot. But no one can force you to do it. You have to make that decision, commit to it, get yourself to a daily meeting so you have something that's replacing the routines that you had before, the people, places, things that made you drink before. You have to have new people, new places, new things to replace that. And then there is a better life on the other side. I'm the proof of that.
Okay, so this is a lighter question, kind of on the other end of the spectrum from that previous, but what do you actually love about your current life right now that kind of keeps you sane continuously?
My marriage, of course. Friends and family, of course, huge to me. My Yankees, my Sabres, my Bills. Love going to sporting events. Just being able to wake up and even something as simple as going on a bike ride, swimming in a pool, just regular shit where it feels like you don't have to worry about waking up the next morning or anything crazy like that.
I suppose, like, I mean, we've gone full circle at this point. Like, you're getting across, the bottom, how it wasn't easy coming out of that hole, and it probably wasn't a straight line. I mean, were there any specific run-ins that you had, or kind of like relapses or anything that made it not feel like as much of a linear path? Because I feel like that's one thing we definitely don't always get to hear about enough in media. Is there anything that kind of set you back at times?
I mean, that entire time I was using, there was always that idea that's, in the back of your head. They're like, all right, this is the last time. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to, get my life straight. And there were so many empty promises that you'd make to yourself. And yeah, talk about setbacks. I probably had thousands of them over the years, but you just never know what that last thing or that last moment that you have when you finally wake up and you're like, okay, that was it. I'm sick of it. I'm finally done. You never know what's going to get you to that point. And it doesn't have to be a huge dramatic thing that happens. It could just finally be time. For me, it was waking up in that bed alone and realizing that it was like, if I don't straighten up now, like, I'm going to be waking up in a bed alone the rest of my life. And it's not a good feeling. But yeah, I mean, talk about relapses and going back to the lifestyle. I mean, I've always taken things too far. The first time I drank 4 beers. 14 years old, drank 4 beers, was completely smashed. But I loved the feeling, and I remember calling my best friend at the time. Was like, it makes you a completely different person. It's really, you gotta just fucking try it. It's great. Oh my god. Next weekend that I drank 8 beers and like threw up all over myself, and it was just a complete and utter fucking mess. And it was just from the first time to the second time I doubled it, and that's just the story of my life. And that's how it went when I was dealing drugs. It was just like, just reinvest, keep doubling down. It was just like, how many times can you double down before you finally just crap out entirely? And well, I was doubling down from 14 and I got to the age of 29, and that's when things came crashing down. You would think that would end it, but my drinking and drug use just doubled down. It didn't stop. It got worse, and it just kept getting worse until I finally realized, like, this will actually take me out. And it, 14 to 40, do the math on that. It's nearly 30 years, and it's, yeah. I'm glad that I'm sitting here, put it that way.
Yeah. Okay, well, this isn't even really a question, but I'm just going to leave the stage open to you. You can take this however you want. I feel like there's like some answers we've already gotten from you before, and so I don't know if anything else comes to mind, maybe nothing, but like, if there was like one message that you would want people to walk away with from this part of your story in specific, not even the whole thing, because there's more to it, and I think we're all starting to realize that. But for this part of your life, at least, the one that's gotten to where you are now, what's one thing you can leave people with to walk away with?
There's always hope. I don't care how far down you feel you've gone. Redemption is always possible. Again, I think I've said this before, though. You have to be big enough to ask for help. No one can go it alone. You have to find the pillars in your life that'll hold you up, even when you're just doing your damnedest to try to fall down. But it doesn't matter how fucked up things are. There is hope on the other side of everything. You just have to be brave enough to look for it.
If you want to hear my full story, my book, Buzz Junkie, is dropping this fall. If you want the first chapter for free right now, though, you can grab it in the first link in the description.